I can do it all, I will never fall. It's the Renaissance, you know that I got the mother sauce, man. You know I'm the boss, I know what it costs. Have you ever lost? I'm so versatile, yeah, I'm a Renaissance, man. I can do it all, I will never fall. It's the Renaissance, you know that I got the mother sauce, man. You know I'm the boss, I know what it costs. Have you ever lost? I'm so versatile, yeah, I'm a Renaissance, man.
Congratulations, brother. Hey.
And here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Hangar Hangout, and we're talking about episode freaking 6. Man, I ain't gonna lie to you, this is fun. I didn't realize that this would be as much fun as it's been for me the last few weeks. Being able to chop it up with y'all, engage with you guys. I look forward to this show on the regular. And tonight, we got a lot to talk about, man. We got a lot to talk about. We've got the Zach Wilson update. Finally, Zach Wilson has been traded. We're going to talk about, you know what I'm saying, what that looks like, what the compensation was. What do we think, of that 2021 draft class, which is to me potentially one of the most atrocious of all time. We're going to go ahead and talk about, the draft coming up. We're only a couple of days away. We're hearing a lot of rumors and New York Jets wanting to go ahead and potentially make a move for a playmaker. I'm not mad at it. I know there's the individuals who are all about the weapon. Some of us are about the offensive line. Ultimately, for me, as long as we're putting it towards the offense, I think at the end of the day, we're going to be okay. We're going to go ahead and chop it up and talk about all of it, man. Even to talk about some of the stuff that we're hearing right now about the Patriots trying to make moves in terms of pushing back. Some news around the AFC East. It's a lot going on, man, and we're going to chop it all up. We're going to talk about it. And tonight, my guest, my co-host for the evening is going to be none other than Connor from New York Flight Jets Talk. Y'all been seeing this man pulling up all kinds of great A-listers when it comes to his show. If you haven't watched them, the description is in the link is in the description. You need to jump on this channel. This is a guy who's doing big things. I'm just trying to be like him when I grow up, trying to be like Connor. Ultimately, he's been able to go ahead and get some great A-listers on his show, man. Really knows his stuff. Without further ado, Connor, what's up, my guy? How you doing, bro?
Gunny, how you doing? I appreciate the build up and appreciate you having me on the show.
Man, easy day, man. You've had me on yours. It was just a matter of time before I could go ahead and get you on mine. I know you're an individual that, you know what I'm saying, tends to do your own show with some A-listers, so we're glad to have you with us tonight to talk New York Jets football. So, yeah, man, let's just jump right into it, Doc. How do you feel about the Zach Wilson situation? Zach Wilson officially traded.
I'm a fan of the move. He needed to be off this team no matter what, whether he was cut or traded. And the fact that we can even gain a pick from it, and it's not even a 7th-round pick. I'll take a 6th-round pick for Zach Wilson all day. And we split the salary with the Broncos, which, I didn't want to pay as much as we had to, but we still saved $2.75 million. And as much of a bust as he was, I think that's better than saving nothing or losing money. So at least we saved some money there. But in terms of the package that we got in return, I'm a fan of the move.
Yeah, so I think it was kind of crazy. We were talking about it before the show. Zach Wilson, in essence, getting traded for a 6th-rounder. I know people are going to say, well, we wind up giving up a 7th-rounder, but they just had a couple of those late 7th-rounders. In essence, just to go ahead and bring somebody in that potentially we probably couldn't get as an undrafted free agent. So it's really nothing. You move up 50 spots for a guy like Zach Wilson with the kind of tumultuous career he's had thus far as a New York Jet. And they got the same kind of value that they got for a guy like a Mac Jones, who took his team to the freaking playoffs. A guy like Justin Fields, who I think has a lot of upside that people are sleeping on. And today, the New York Jets sent him on his way with what I would say is one of the most basic of tweets to a farewell,
Yep.
so to speak. I've never seen a more basic one, which kind of speaks volumes in regards to how his career wind up starting and wind up ending. What do you think happened, man? Like, how did we get here with Zach Wilson?
Obviously coming out of college, he was just the plays he was making. I didn't think could translate into the NFL. I mean, he was obviously a smaller school guy coming out of BYU, and he was known for those scrambling out of the pocket, cross body, insane passes. And I just don't think that translates into the NFL with any player. I mean, a lot of players, I wouldn't say he's as bad as as much of a bust as like a Jamarcus Russell or a Tim Tebow, but there are just guys like that are so talented in college, and then that just does not translate into the NFL. But like I said, the fact that we can get anything for him, I'm a big fan of it. And in regards to the tweet that you just pulled up on the screen, I think he's lucky he even got anything from the New York Jets organization. As you know, it was just like it can't get much worse than that. I think he had the Titans game where he threw that crazy thing like Corey Davis, and then it was like, okay, we might have hope, and then things died down for about a year and a half, and then we had the Texans game where he threw like his second 300-yard game, and then Jet fans were like, okay, we might have just turned the corner, but no. Back to the normal next week, losing 30-0, coming out of the game because he's, quote, dehydrated, and that's the last we saw of him in a New York Jets uniform.
Yeah, definitively. I think that when it comes to I guess you can say the Aaron Rodgers, I'm sorry, not Aaron, the Zach Wilson debacle, I think it's telling because, again, he came from a smaller school. Right. And I think the majority of individuals know that about him. Some people liked him. Some people didn't. I won't lie. I was one of those individuals that I really wanted Trevor Lawrence. I was very disgusted in the fact that we cost ourselves a guy like a Trevor Lawrence who himself, has not really achieved expectations. But for me, the second guy I had on the board was a guy like Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields playing in much higher levels of competition. You saw him go to toe with a guy like a freaking Trevor Lawrence. I was a huge fan of Justin Fields potentially being the guy after Trevor went out. But we grabbed Zach Wilson. And I think as all Jets fan did, I know myself, I forced myself to watch more on Zach Wilson, and I forced myself to believe, like, you know what? I get it. I see the arm talent. I see the potential. And I was on cloud nine hoping that he could achieve that potential. So now he's a Denver Bronco. What do you think about the situation that he's currently in going to the Broncos with a guy like a Sean Payton?
So, yeah, obviously the Denver Broncos were emerged as the target early for Zach Wilson just because, obviously they let go of Russell Wilson. And right now, if you look at the roster, I mean, currently, obviously, they're probably going to go out and draft a quarterback. But Zach Wilson has a chance of being a starting quarterback on that team right now if the season started today. And that's scary to me, how a guy like that, I personally think is at best a practice squad, third string type quarterback, can just go to another scenario and then possibly be a starting quarterback next year. I think it's amazing, and I really don't think that he deserves that. Just because you can't come off a career like that and then just obviously be thrown into a competing for a starting job. I just don't think that's acceptable.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. I think that Sean Payton, though, it's like the perfect situation, right? In terms of somebody who believes that he's that dude that can potentially fix what the issue might be with a guy like a Zach Wilson. He has the bit of, I don't want to say arrogance, with confidence in himself, and his ability potentially to go ahead and take what has been a complete bust, in my opinion. This guy has literally, he's on par with some of the worst statistics in line with Jamarcus Russell for quarterback. So he's one of the worst statistical quarterbacks of all time. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But there's a portion of the fan base who thinks that it wasn't Zach Wilson's fault, that it was the organization that failed him. Personally, whenever I see that, I kind of sit there and ask, did we not watch guys like freaking Joe Flacco and Mike White come in there and put up numbers with the same kind of situation and circumstances? Yeah. So whenever you hear the individuals who are big Zach Wilson fans, how do you respond to those individuals when it's all said and done?
Well, honestly, I don't think the Jets failed him at all. The only credit I'll give to Zach is I don't think any quarterback deserves to come in, right away. Obviously, Jets, I think when he came in, the Jets were in no scenario to be a winning team, and no one thought they were going to be good for a long time. And maybe they thought Zach Wilson will be that generational talent, and he got thrown into a mess, and he didn't succeed. And even when we put weapons around him, I mean, you saw 2022 season, we had, the offense, obviously, like his defense is incredible. Both years he's played, he's the top 3 defense. Well, the 2 years that he was supposed to produce numbers, he's top 3 defense in the league. He was throwing the ball to Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall in the backfield. I just think it's unacceptable that the Jets, quote, failed Zach.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I think the fact of the matter is they tried very much so to put not only just weapons around him and a guy like a Garrett Wilson and a guy like Breece Hall. They tried to make his job as easy as possible by giving him one of the best defenses in all of football. Yes. We weren't asking this kid to allow the scoreboards. We're just trying to be average. be average, and this team could go ahead and win games. We can go ahead and make you look good, potentially get you paid down the road. Along that, they made efforts on the offensive line. I know there's a lot of hate and discontent in regards to just how bad this Jets offensive line has been, but I can't sit here and pretend like we haven't seen Joe Douglas make every effort to go
Yes.
ahead and build this O-line. It just hasn't panned out. So this whole thing with Zach Wilson, I don't think it just boils down to him. I think the majority of that draft class in essence was potentially what most would call a bust. Even Trevor Lawrence, like we were just discussing, he has not really lived up to expectations, right? This was supposed to be the golden boy. He was supposed to be the best thing since Andrew Luck. And you keep hearing every freaking draft class, there's a best thing since Andrew Luck. Everybody wants to be like Andrew Luck. And unfortunately, we have not seen a prospect like him come into the NFL and just take over. So with that said, I wanted to transition right into this week. It's the NFL draft. I'm excited. I know you're pumped. I'm sick and tired of mock drafts. We've done countless of them across all Jets content. Everyone and their mom's doing one. You and I have discussed what we want to see the Jets do. We'll get into that in a little bit. But one of the things that I want to kind of tie together with, that 2021 draft class of quarterbacks with all the generational talent and blah, 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 is the 2024 draft class of quarterbacks. I actually tweeted something yesterday, early afternoon after the Zach Wilson trade, realizing that every freaking guy drafted in the top 10 at quarterback anyway has been traded away to a different team with the exception of Trevor Lawrence, who right now is hanging on by a thread. I believe there's going to be anywhere from 4 to 5 quarterbacks taken this year in this draft class in the top 10, maybe top 15 at most.
Yeah.
But I also believe that this is going to be comparable to that 2021 draft class in being trash. I don't think this draft class is going to be as great as most people think it's going to be. You call me biased, but a lot of it seems to kind of match and mirror a lot of the hype we got with that 2021 draft class. And I have a feeling there's only going to be one guy that comes out successful in this one. And I have it down to either a JJ McCarthy or a Penix being the one guy that turns out to be Trevor Lawrence, an average NFL starter. But what do you think about this draft class in comparison to what the 2021 quarterback draft class was?
Honestly, I agree with what you're saying when it comes to comparing the quarterback room. Obviously, the big names, Caleb Williams, and I think Caleb, he'll be a solid NFL player. I think he could be an average starter in this league, but I don't think he's going to amount to anywhere near the hype that he's been getting. All this media attention and stuff like this, the consensus number 1 overall pick, this and that, best prospect we've seen, and blah 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 blah. I don't think he's going to be that good. And honestly, I think the best quarterback in this class is going to be Jaden Daniels. I think Penix could be a really, really solid player. But, what scares me is the injuries. I look at Penix, he reminds me of Tua, kind of big lefty, can scramble in and out of the pocket. He's mobile, but the injuries is what scares me. I think McCarthy will be good, but I don't know if he's a top 10 level quarterback. Like when it comes to like where we're picking, like I don't think he deserves to be selected within the top 10. I look at him and his talent for me matches like a late first, early second pick.
That's fair.
And then I think the talk of Knicks going in the first round is absolutely crazy. I don't think he deserves to be like, if a team trades up with the Jets and the Jets go back and they want to come up and get Knicks, great for the Jets. But I don't think Knicks deserves to even be going in the first round. So that's where I stand on the quarterback situation.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree with you in regards to the Bo Nix one. For me, I think is crazy how much hype this kid is getting. I don't understand it either. But again, I think this is what happens when you get organizations that are in desperation mode, right? They start looking at potential individuals that could potentially make it more appealing to them. You know what? This makes sense. Get your franchise quarterback. The term gets thrown out way too often nowadays, and it's kind of concerning. I think a franchise quarterback is legitimately a guy who can be one of those top 15 to 20 quarterbacks in the NFL, right? I mean, 32 franchise quarterbacks, that's not the case. There's not 32 franchise quarterbacks in the NFL. But that top 15, that top half, the average guys to like the elite guys, that's your franchise guys. And I think that desperation to find one is why you're going to see a lot of these quarterbacks come off the board. JJ McCarthy is a great example. I think for him, he's going to go ahead and move up predominantly based off of how much hype he's gotten from Harbaugh. Harbaugh has been pretty much pushing his man like crazy. You're seeing him showing support, showing love, and everybody thinks Harbaugh is this genius. He knows ball. And I think that's why he's going to go ahead and find himself just inching into that freaking top 10, top 15 range to get drafted. And you're right. I think he is a late first, early second guy. In fact, at the end of the season, this is after he won the national champion, he was going in the second round in terms of a potential prospect. And that just shows you how things can change so drastically with freaking media hype, everybody doing their mock drafts, Harbaugh getting involved. But yeah, and I agree. I think this quarterback class is going to be disappointing. And I think for me, I like Penix predominantly because of his origin story, right? Like if you look at Penix's origin story, you like how the guy carries himself. I think he sent out a letter to all 32 NFL GMs talking about how, the injuries were a concern and an issue, but ultimately he was able to go ahead and overcome them in back-to-back years, play full seasons, and how, the thing that caught my attention was he stated something like, I'm just paraphrasing. He goes, yeah, listen, I can take all the x-rays and, all the MRIs you guys want. But at the end of the day, the one thing that's going to really tell you my story is, when you guys get an EKG, right? You got to look at his heart. I'm not going to lie to you, man. I was just like, love the kid. And his origin story tells a lot, man. He comes from humble beginning and those kind of things, right? I think you see those kind of individuals get the opportunity and they hold on to it and they run with it. So that's why I like Penix, but I think McCarthy specifically because of just how humble he is and how much he wants to learn. I think he's one of the better processors of defenses in this particular draft class. I think his football IQ is amongst the highest from McCarthy. But again, when you have an NFL coach, coaching you up, it makes sense as to why he's so far ahead than, in my opinion, than the rest. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think what it boils down to is that this draft class of quarterbacks is going to disappoint more than they actually excel. And when that happens, a year from now, 2 years from now, we'll find out. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter for us because we're not drafting quarterback. The Jets are currently at pick 10. We've been hearing a lot of rumors lately about the potential for the Jets to trade up. Now, personally, I have my thought process on it. I don't know how you feel about it. I want to ask the chat, what do they feel about the potential for the Jets to trade up? But what do you think about all the rumors you're hearing right now about the New York Jets being interested in moving up and pursue a weapon for Aaron Rodgers?
Honestly, I'm a fan of the idea to trade up. And if we're going to trade up, I want a Malik Neighbors. I want a Marvin Harrison Jr. I want someone who's going to come in and make plays right away. I think Marvin Harrison is as close to a can't-miss prospect as you can find in this generation. I just think the routes, the speed, everything. And, God, I like Neighbors too. Neighbors is a little smaller, in the smaller end, but, I'm a big fan of Neighbors. And in regards of will the Jets trade up, I think if Joe Douglas has shown in his tenure with the Jets, if he really likes a player, he's going to make a move and go up for them. Like if let's say he really, really likes Joe Alt and the Titans are sitting at pick 7 and are willing to shop that pick, because I think Joe Alt's a lock at pick 7. But let's say the Titans want to shop that pick, and Alt is Joe Douglas's offensive tackle 1, can't miss this and that. I think Joe Douglas will go up to make a move on anyone who he thinks can be a really a generational talent for this team.
Okay, so if you had to go ahead and put money on it now, right? Put your room on it, whatever you want to put on it, right? Do you think Joe Douglas actually trades up, or do you see him staying put at 10?
Honestly, where we're sitting right now, I think he will probably stay at pick 10 and stick and pick. But my opinion, if I'm Joe Douglas, I'm trading up to pick 5 with the Chargers. If Marvin Harrison Jr. gets past the Cardinals, as you know, the Cardinals, they like to shop their picks. I don't know if you saw the tweet that Adam Schefter put out the other day of Monty. I don't know, his last name starts with an O. I don't know how to pronounce it exactly, but I don't know if you saw the clip of him. It was 4 minutes on the clock. He traded back and then he traded back up, and it was this crazy sequence. It really showed how deals are made. So, I think if Harrison gets past pick 4 with the Cardinals, as the Cardinals are looking to shop that trade, I think the Jets with the Chargers, I think that could be a really nice trade package.
Yeah, a lot of what I'm hearing is that's that sweet spot, right? Everybody's talking about, trading up to 5 is going to be what allows you to grab yourself a Marvin Harrison Jr. or Malik Neighbors. And that's the target range. You're talking about the first 4 picks is potentially going to be quarterbacks. But I sit here and I look at it this way. I don't believe that, okay, first and foremost, I'm with you. I think that if I had to bet money on it, we're staying put and we're going to go with the best player available to us. And I think Adunze still has a shot at being there. And I would hope if he doesn't go Adunze, he would go offensive tackle. And I've jumped on the board of BTJ, you know what I'm saying, before the whole Bowers thing, man. Like I'm really hoping if we don't get one of those top guys and you trade back, acquire some more capital, maybe you go your offensive lineman later on, or maybe you go BTJ later on. And if those guys are somehow gone, then I get it. You take a shot and take a swing for a guy like Bowers and hope that he can go ahead and correlate what you saw at the college level at the NFL level. But for me, man, I think they're going to stay put. But you're hearing a lot of individuals now kind of reaching out, talking about their pick is available for anyone who's interested. Case in point, a guy like the Patriots, who I don't believe they would ever really trade with us, but the Patriots have made it known that the pick is available. The pick 3 is available if you want it, come and get it. The team, though, it's kind of concerning me because you would think they have a chance to go ahead and grab one of these quarterbacks, or a guy like a Marvin Harrison Jr., who could be a game changer for your organization, or a Neighbors, or even a Joe Alt, right? If you want to go ahead and add a blue chip prospect or component to your team. So with them deciding to put the trade on the market, do you think it means they're not keen on the quarterback options? Because you would think they need a franchise quarterback. I mean, yeah, but they got Brissett right now for the time being, but grabbing a legitimate potential quarterback that you can have sit behind a Brissett for a year might be the smart move, and yet they're trying to auction off their pick. What do you think about that?
Sorry, honestly, I think it can mean a lot of different things. I think that it could mean maybe they like the value to trade down. They recoup some, a couple, probably some, obviously one first round pick, possibly two if a team was going to come up like the Vikings, and obviously some second and third round picks. So they could like the value. That might be the reason. Or like you mentioned, they might not be too high. As you know, every team has a different thought process as we lead up to the NFL draft. But I think it can mean a lot of different scenarios for Robert Kraft and company.
Okay. I'm looking at it, man, and I wish nothing but the worst for the Patriots. I always do. I want to see them fall on their face consistently and often and always. I think they had their run, a 20-year run at being the top dog in the NFL, I think is enough. Some of us are just trying to get one, right? You were able to go ahead and achieve 6 in a 20-year time frame. They got their dynasty. They got their situation all situated. From now on, you're in purgatory for the next 10. Give me at least the next 10 years and then being in purgatory, and I'll be happy. I hate the idea of them trading back because, again, this is such a draft class that is so deep and so rich in terms of potential talent, right? I can see them trading back right now. That they'd get a haul. I think they would get, potentially 3-4 firsts, depending on who's moving up. Minnesota, I think currently right now has 2 first rounders that can go ahead and utilize to go ahead and move up. And if that was to happen, in my opinion, that's a nightmare situation because, again, of how much talent there is in that wide receiver, this wide receiver draft class. They could take a chance on, trading back and then still getting themselves one of the top or one of the first round wide receivers, you know what I'm saying? A BTJ or not a Dunze, but a Donnie Mitchell, a guy like McConklin. Like they've have options, right? Like they have options there, and you still got a guy like freaking like Penix who might fall. You know what I'm saying? One of those guys that could fall down and sit behind Jacoby Brissett for the year, and then you're building your team the right way. I don't want that for the Patriots. I want them to reach. Hopefully, it's for one of these quarterbacks that I don't believe is going to be a success at the next level. And I want them to go ahead and waste their 3rd overall pick. Again, purgatory for them is where I believe they need to be. We had the sacrifice. God knows how many, almost 100 years it feels like, right? Since winning one, it feels like it's been an eternity, 5 decades plus. So I think it's time that they have to go ahead and go through the cycle as well. So for me, I'm hoping it's not the case. But I'm going to say this, and I think I'm crazy for saying it because I do love draft picks. I do want to make sure we're still building a team the right way, that we're not throwing it all to the wind. But I don't think they're going to do it. But if I'm Joe Douglas and I'm sitting there and I'm watching MHJ drop past pick 4 to pick 5, I don't think I hesitate. I think you've got to make the phone call. You've got to make the move. And you've got to go for a guy like MHJ. I think the impact of having a Marvin Harrison Jr. and a Garrett Wilson and a Mike Williams on this roster for a elite quarterback, even if it's an average quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, I think what you can achieve offensively is immeasurable. So for me, I've jumped on the hope and dream of that the Jets do jump up and get MHJ. I don't think they're going to do it, but if he drops to number 5, I don't think there's a Jets fan who's going to be upset if we give up our first, our pick 10, our third, our fourth, one of our fourths, next year's first. I think when you look at make a win now move, MHJ is it. Like, that's the guy you want to bring in. You got 2 freaking wide receiver 1s, wide receiver 1B and Mike Williams. You got Breece Hall. Conklin can now literally beat up on one-on-one, you know what I'm saying, when he's covered one-on-one. Your whole team gets better immediately when you can put MHJ on the outside, Garrett Wilson in the slot, freaking Mike Williams on the outside, Breece Hall in the backfield. That's disgusting. That's disgusting. And I think that kind of a move sends chills down the spines of not just individuals in the AFC East, but everyone in the AFC. Like the Jets, okay, they mean business, they're serious. If Aaron Rodgers is the Aaron Rodgers of 2022, this team will be a problem. What do you think about that?
Yeah, a lot to unpack there. First, like I agree with you. Nothing but the worst for the Patriots. And when it comes to trading down, you mentioned the value in this wide receiver class. I don't even think it's just the wide receiver room. I think this draft class overall, both sides of the ball, I think this is one of the most skilled, talented, whatever you want to call it, draft classes we've seen in a long time. But when it comes to like an Odunze, I'd trade up. I'd trade up maybe 2 picks if I'd give up both 4s to go up 2 picks and ensure that we land Odunze, just because Odunze, Williams, and Garrett Wilson with Breece Hall in the backfield and Aaron Rodgers at the helm. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. Just Odunze and Williams, their ability to go up and catch jump balls versus Wilson, route running speed. I mean, a little bit of everything. And then you mentioned Conklin, obviously. I really like Conklin. A comparison I made is I look at Bowers and I look at him as a smaller, speedier version of Tyler Conklin. I like Conklin because, he is slow, but he is gonna if there's a jump ball up there with 2 defenders, he's gonna go up over them and catch that ball. That's what I like about him. He didn't have a touchdown this past season, but just I think he had the most yards in his whole career this year. So I do like Conklin, but going back to the Odunze thing, if the Jets can select him, I'd be more than happy, and I'd even trade up for Odunze.
So you would trade up to pick 8, right?
Pick 8 or pick 9, yeah.
Pick 9. Yeah, I think Chicago's bluffing. So I know just before we got on the show, I was talking to Mike, the stat guy, and he shared a picture with me of Caleb Williams and Odunze chopping it up, right? Just throwing up deuces, etc. And then the caption said the Bears are in play for Odunze at pick 9. And this is where I start doing the math right in terms of, okay, what are the chances Odunze drops to us? I do see a defender or 2 coming off the board before our pick. I'm thinking 4 quarterbacks at minimum will come off the board. You got to think Joe Alt is going to come off the board. And then you're talking about at least the 2 wide receivers in MHJ and Malik Neighbors. That puts Odunze in that 10 conversation. And you look at a team like the Bears, and people are like, well, they'd be the one that made the decision. I don't think so. And the reason why I say that is because their O-line is atrocious. They have an atrocious O-line. And you're talking about a team that has DJ Moore at wide receiver and Keenan Allen at wide receiver. Their wide receiver room is complete, in my opinion. So I think it's more of a smokescreen. It feels like Chicago is trying to go ahead and entice somebody to kind of come up and potentially, take freaking a guy like Odunze. I wouldn't be mad if the Jets did it. I wouldn't be mad if the Jets say, you know what, we're going to give you the 10th and the 4th. We're going to come up 1 spot to go ahead and get our guy. I wouldn't be upset at all. It would make sense. But I feel like the smoke screen is being put out there because the Bears are looking to go ahead and acquire more assets. This is a team that is just talentless other than the wide receiver room, and they think Caleb Williams is going to be him. I doubt it, but, we'll see. They need to start adding more pieces to that offensive line room. The defense needs some help. So when I look at it, I think it's more of a smokescreen to go ahead and potentially they're interested in trading too. They're trying to go ahead and pretty much get somebody to come up and give them something for that 9th overall pick.
Yeah, I really agree. I like you mentioned that photo that Mike the Stat Guy was showing you. I try not to get tied up in all that social media stuff because I just think
Yeah.
it's complete propaganda if you really think about it. Like, I don't know if you remember, but remember I think it was sometime end of February when nothing was happening and that Justin Jefferson rumor, someone just
Oh
released
yeah.
that one day and then out of nowhere and then Jet fans started going crazy over it. And I thought that was like laughable how Jet fans were linking Justin Jefferson to the Jets. In no world I could see Justin Jefferson coming and playing for the Jets. But in regards to the top 10, I think this is what the top 10 will look like in some combination. I think it's going to go Caleb, Drake, Jaden, Marvin Harrison. I think there's a chance that Bowers goes at 5. Tony Pauline has been big on Bowers going before the Jets.
I
I
hope
think
so.
I think there's a big chance that he goes at 5 to the Chargers. Harbaugh loves to utilize his tight ends. I can
That's true.
100% see that. And then 6 with the Giants, I can either see them going McCarthy or Neighbors. I'd see if McCarthy's there at 6, I'd probably see them going with McCarthy. And then 7 is the Titans. I think that's a lock, Joe Alt there. And
Yeah,
then
100%.
and then
100%. That's
and
easy.
then 8, 9, and 10 is where it gets real dicey because then the big 3 left, you look and you have possibility that Neighbors is still there
Yep.
when it
Neighbors for
comes to
Shanu or
yeah,
Dunze.
pick 8. You have Neighbors, Odunze, you have Fashanu, you have Jared Verse, who I
Jared
still think
Verse,
the Falcons are gonna select. He's a nasty
100%.
pass rusher. But,
Falcons
I
are
think
going defense. I don't care what anybody says. Falcons are going defense. That's a given.
yeah, so I think the top 10 will look something like that, and if that's the top 10, I'd be a fan of that because then that would leave the Jets with the option of a maybe, if if Neighbors or Odunze falls to the Jets, I think the Jets have to take him. And if they're both there, which I think is this slim, I'd probably go Neighbors over Odunze just because I think he speed. I like route running more than Odunze. But if we can just get one of those two guys, or even trade up for Harrison, I want a weapon. This is a
Yeah.
win now team. Win
Yeah.
now team. I want a weapon, someone who Aaron Rodgers could throw the ball to, along with Mike Williams and Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, man, and it's crazy because I find myself coming around to team weapon when I've been so keen on offensive line. I've been adamant that we need to go offensive line, offensive line, offensive line, and then Mike the Stat Guy and I did a freaking a mock draft about a week or so, or 2 weeks ago maybe it was, and he broke down some individuals who could be potential guys who could come in and fill in spot situations if we lose a guy like freaking Tyron for a little bit. And I feel better about some of those options down the late rounds. But if you're going to get a bona fide weapon in terms of the first round, that's a win beyond measure. And another thing I keep forgetting is David Bakatari is still out there. And I'm really starting to feel like the only reason he has not signed with the team yet, there's already been a handshake deal done. The Jets are going to go ahead and bring him in after the draft. I
I think
think
so
they're
too.
really focused on weapon. So, like, the more and more I thought about, okay, they want to win now, 2-year window with Rodgers. You give him another freaking weapon to be devastating on the offensive side of the ball. What if Tyron Smith does play a full season or he gives us at least 13? Then I heard, I want to say it was either Mike or a battered Jets fan. Dan said, listen, if you give me Aaron Rodgers for the full season, a healthy Aaron Rodgers for the full season, or a healthy O-line for the full season, the Jets are winning the AFC East. And I stopped and thought about that. And I was just like, healthy O-line means Tyrod Taylor's back there slinging it. He's protected. He could do damage. O-line takes some dings here and there. Aaron Rodgers back there slinging it with weapons. He can do some damage. And I found myself being kind of like woed towards not the dark side, but like the weapon side of things, right? So I think I've gotten this close to the draft now, man, and I think I want weapon, unless the weapon is Bowers. If you're telling me it's Bowers or an offensive tackle at 10, that's the option. I'm going offensive tackle. But in terms of where I've come around to now, seeing that we'd be giving Aaron Rodgers the most versatile group of weapons he's ever had in his career, I think you can't miss with that. I think with what we're trying to achieve, weapon goes a long way in achieving our goals.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I'm going to go back to the point you made about Bakhtiari. I do agree with you. I think that deal is done, and they are just going to announce it post draft. But someone else, let's say that deal is not done, someone else I like is Donovan Smith. His
Yep. Mike
production
Williams
hasn't
too.
His production hasn't been great, but, grew up a Jet fan from Hempstead, Long
Yeah.
Island kid. If we can bring in someone like that, homegrown story, and then, just hope he's sitting there for when Tyron Smith misses some of those games, hope he can come in and be like an average tier guy. But yes, I do agree. I think that Bakhtiari deal is done.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, I'm a fan of both. I'm a fan of both. And I think because you have both of those as options, and you could potentially go ahead and get, and again, Max Mitchell's still here, Carter Warren is still here. Now, those guys showed us flashes, you know what I'm saying, of what they can do. Do I sit here and tell you I feel comfortable with both of those guys getting, what I'm saying, meaningful reps during the season? No. But they're another year into their NFL careers. They'd both be coming in healthy going into freaking training camp. We've upgraded the offensive line coach. A lot can go right in terms of what those guys can achieve because they did show us some flashes. And Tyron Smith, one of the great things that kind of really made me feel good about him is, although he hasn't completed a full season since 2015, the man's never missed a playoff game. Never missed a playoff game. And if you got him playing, 10 to 14 games for you in the regular season, and he has to sit out for a few games, and you bring a guy like Bakhtiari, or maybe it's Carter Warren, or maybe it's Max Mitchell, and they got to play left tackle for a little bit, and then he's back in the playoffs, I still like those odds. If you're talking about Aaron Rodgers can throw the ball to Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams, a Dunze, Neighbors, or an MHJ, I really think the more and more I think about it, that we've got to go that route. Weapon has to be the answer. I think if we go weapon, we have a wide receiver room that can compete with any other wide receiver room in the league. And there's no other team out there in the NFL that has the cornerback room that the Jets have. So we can eliminate your wide receivers. You can't eliminate all of ours. I think that to me is the chef's kiss to it. What if the Jets trade back? What if the Jets decide to trade back? What do you think about that option?
So yeah, a few things there between just the offensive line. You mentioned Max Mitchell, and then I'll get to trading back in a little. I look at Max Mitchell and I look at Carter Warren, and a championship-winning offensive line does not have either of those guys starting. Championship offensive line has those guys being what I like to call cheap depth pieces, guys that you have just lined up in case a guy like a Tyron Smith goes down, in case a guy like a Morgan Moses goes down. But I still would like to ensure another spot with a guy like a Donovan Smith, a guy like a David Bakhtiari. But in terms of trading down, if we were to trade down, I'd probably, I like offensive line if we trade down. Maybe Brian Thomas Jr. would probably be, or Adonai Mitchell would probably be my number one wide receiver offensive weapon target if we traded down. But when it comes to offensive line, I like Latham. I like Fuaga. I don't know if Fashanu will fall that far, but Latham, Fuaga. I really like Troy Fontenot. He reminds me a lot of AVT. So that's where I'm sitting right now. Those are the names I like if we were to trade down.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I've become a huge fan of BTJ. I liked him. I liked him a lot in terms of what he brings to the table. The 6'3" guy, pushing 6'4", actually, 4.3 speed. And I liked him again as a late teens option, right? Like early 20s, if we were to trade back. But then, me and Mike the Stat Guy, we've been chopping it up a lot over the last couple of weeks as we get closer to the draft. And he brought up to me like, man, listen, if the Jets went, even at 10 and picked him up, I wouldn't be upset if the other guys are gone. And I was just like, whoa, relax. At 10, that's a bit of a reach, right? And of course, then I got to go back to the tape. And I was just like, all right. So I sat there the last couple of last week or so, just looking at like BTJ tape. And he gets kind of lost in the sauce because, of course, that offense ran through Neighbors, and Neighbors really just pop off the screen, right, in terms of what he can do. But when you sit back and you watch BTJ, man, like, he was a catalyst. He was a catalyst on that team. 17 touchdowns. He actually led all of FBS in touchdowns. And in FBS history, he came in third behind only Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson in terms of touchdowns caught in FBS history. That's some pretty good company. And again, people talk about how like, well, he only does go routes. That's what he was asked to do, but he can run routes. I mean, they're a little bit ugly. I think he needs some work there. But in terms of his fluidity as an athlete and what he brings to the table in terms of his violent stop and go, you can work with that in an NFL wide receiver room to go ahead and teach this kid how to design or how to hide a little bit and kind of like deceive a little bit when it comes to his route running, and he can get better. But at 6'3", a 4'3", 340, a 200-pound guy, you're talking about a perfect complement, in my opinion, to what we have currently in the locker room. You've got a guy like a Garrett Wilson who you can play in the slot. again, you can put BTJ on the outside to stretch the freaking field. You can put freaking Mike Williams on the outside to play freaking the Big X. Like, who's guarding who? Like, the defense has got to be honest every time they step on the field, and they've got these weapons in front of them. Oh, and by the way, there's still Breece Hall in the backfield and Tyler Conklin that can do damage too. Like, I think when you look at it and what he brings to the table, I sat there, man, and I watched his tape. Low drop rate. The dude has an amazing ability to track the football. I sat there and I'm like, man, this okay. I get it. I see what Mike is talking about. So I wouldn't be opposed if some would say it's a reach. You get a guy like a BTJ if we can't trade back. I think I've jumped on the board of I would be okay with taking that swing at a guy like a BTJ.
Yeah, I personally like Thomas Jr. I know Buffalo Jet fan, I think, put it out like top 10 big board armchair GM. And then I saw yours, and I think you had Thomas Jr. as like your 10B option for the Jets on your big board. And I'm a fan of Thomas Jr. Like, the routes do concern me a little. If we had the choice, we're trading back. We're sitting at 15, 18, wherever we are. Jets like the option of going weapon. I'd prefer probably Adonai Mitchell over Brian Thomas Jr., but I do think he's a solid option. And, like I said, if we were to trade back, a guy like a Latham, a guy like a Troy Fontenot, I think there are a lot of solid options. And, whatever people are forgetting, when we're at pick 72, there are still going to be solid players on the board.
Facts.
And also, if we trade back, we might have an additional third-round pick or maybe a second. So, just because if we someone I like, if we were to go weapon in the first round, maybe a guy like a Harrison and Neighbors and Odunze. I like Kieran. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. It starts with an A. Kieran A, the tackle out of Yale.
Yeah.
I think he's a solid guy. And then if we were to go like a offensive lineman direction in the first round, a guy that Antoine Staley, the New York Daily News, had the Jets selecting him at pick 72. I don't know if he'll fall that far, but Ricky Pearsall out of Florida, if he's there at 72, the Jets need to roll the dice on him.
Yeah.
I can't see that happening, but I have a question for you, Gunny. What do you think would happen? Penix stock, it's been on the come up a little now. It was dead for a little. Let's say Penix is there at 72. What are your thoughts if the Jets went Odunze at 10 or traded up and got Odunze and then went Penix at 72?
If you had asked me that question the day before yesterday, I would have told you there's no way Zach Wilson's on this roster, and I don't believe they would just get rid of him if we couldn't have found a trade partner for him. But sitting here today, you got to make the move. I think you're talking about the opportunity to have a guy like Penix with the upside that he has. Yeah, I get it. The injury concerns are, in fact, concerning, right? But the last 2 years, the kid has shown he can go ahead and play and stay healthy. You take that level of talent. He's done it at a high level. You bring him in. He gets to sit behind Aaron Rodgers and Tyrod Taylor for the next year. You can't miss out on those opportunities to go ahead and groom the next guy, right? And I think the Jets are going to draft a quarterback in this freaking draft class. Now, I think it's without question. If it's not the third, it's going to be one of the fourth. You're going to go ahead and take a swing at a guy like a Jordan Travis. I don't believe freaking Rattler will be there. I think he's going to go in the second. But if somehow Penix drops all the way to the third, man, you've got to run and you got to go ahead and give the card bring the card to the podium and bring him on board. Now, again, this is because I'm thinking about the next chapter, right? We still have a very young catalyst. We're going to have to go ahead and pay guys like freaking Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall and Sauce Gardner. Like, this is a really, really good roster that's built really well. We've got the young pieces and the veteran pieces, and this team can go ahead and win now and win later. So if you bring a guy like a Penix in to go ahead and understand and build relationships with these guys and gets to learn behind a GOAT like Aaron Rodgers and a guy who's been playing at a high level like a freaking Tyrod Taylor, it's how winning organizations continue to win. It's how they're doing it. They'll always have that guy the next round in the chamber ready to go ahead and fire once freaking the first round is gone. So, yeah, I'm 100% on board. I've jumped onto this mindset now that if we're able to go ahead and build – Joe Douglas said it in his press conference, right? You've seen teams like the freaking Packers do it. They literally went back-to-back. They went from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers, then to freaking Jordan Love. It's a winning formula. We're seeing that they've been a successful organization for years, and he wants to do that. He was adamant that he wants to do that. So I think that's the move. And even if you got to go ahead and use one of your 6-rounders or whatever it is to move up a little bit if he falls that far back, I think you make the move. If a guy like Penix is available, and I don't think he will. I don't think he'll drop to the third. But, man, if he does, I think you got to make that move. for the betterment of the organization long term, not just in the current like short term.
I couldn't agree with you more. They need to roll the dice if he's there. But the names for the quarterbacks on day 3, we can go on for days. Jordan Travis,
Yeah.
Spencer Rattler, Michael a little earlier. Michael Pratt, I like Carter Bradley with Mr. Irrelevant. I like Keaton Slovis with Mr. Irrelevant. I like the names go on for the Jets
Yeah.
to target.
They got options for days. So if you had your choice of those guys, Penix excluded because we both agree he'll probably wind up going earlier. But the realistic options, the Rattlers down to the Pratts, what are you thinking?
Oh, Jordan Travis all day.
The upside, right? I think you and I are potentially. I don't know if we're in the minority here, but I like Jordan Travis. I think the fact that a guy who goes down and his team still wins out, and they tell him like, we're not gonna put you in the playoffs because your quarterback that's an impactful player. That's a playmaker recognized in college football to where like his whole team got eliminated from playoff contention because he went down, even though they didn't lose a game. I think Jordan Travis got that dog in him, man. I know a lot of people talk about his mechanics being, erratic. There's concerns about the broken leg if he's going to be able to come back from that, but all indications are that it was a clean break, so the kid should be fine. I love Jordan Travis, man, and I think he'll be there for you in the 4th, maybe even the 5th. I think if you really want him, one of your late picks can be dedicated to that kid. Now, I don't believe he'll be ready to play at all this season. I think you pick Jordan Travis up, year 1 is a wash. He's not going to play this year. But I'm a big fan of him, man. And I think the dream would be to get a guy like Rattler. But again, I don't believe he'll fall that far back. So between Jordan Travis and I think Pratt's the other guy that I like as well. I think Travis, man, would be a home run to sit behind Rodgers and Tyrod Taylor, man. You still got some time. I know you said you had about 40 minutes to spend with me. We've gone to 46 now.
Yeah, so in terms of what you said about the quarterbacks, I don't think you can go wrong with any of the options there. I mean, what player would not want to come in and learn from one of the best to ever play football, and Aaron Rodgers? So, anyone like Pratt, I wouldn't mind Pratt. I wouldn't mind Travis. And I feel like these guys are not going to come in and play. Maybe they'll take a couple preseason snaps. Travis probably won't as his injury, but maybe these guys will come in and play another some preseason snaps. But in terms of them appearing in regular season / postseason games, I think Taylor is why that's why we need to lock him up. So if someone goes down, the Jets had a first-hand account of that last year with Aaron Rodgers going down and Zach Wilson coming in. If Aaron Rodgers goes down, Tyrod Taylor's there, and then obviously, you got to fill that 3rd spot, in my opinion, with a guy like a Pratt or a Travis. Worst case scenario, Taylor and Rodgers are both not available.
Yeah, 100%. We can't go into this season blinded. And let's be honest, our starting quarterback is coming off an Achilles injury. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying Rodgers is injury prone, but he is 40 years old. He's getting up there. Tyrod Taylor is injury prone, right? This isn't a guy that's been able to go ahead and stay healthy throughout his career. So there's concerns there. So to have somebody come in that's going to be at least certifiable, you know what I'm saying? Somebody that can at least, keep things together. I'm not saying you got to be a superstar, but the Jets cannot not make the playoffs this year. I'm sorry. For me, there's no excuse to be made. There's no denying it. The New York Jets have to make the playoffs. If they don't, it's a complete failure. Everybody's got to go. I don't care what the cause was. So I think having a qualified QB3 option on this roster is still a must, only because of the guys we have, in front of them, Rodgers and Tyrod Taylor. But let's stop thinking, gloom and doom. New York Jets have a healthy roster that are able to go ahead and draft at the very least a Dunze. What are your expectations for this team?
If Odunze can come in and, produce the numbers he did in college, as if he could do that and that translates to the NFL, we're going to have a really solid wide receiver room. But if we're going to draft Odunze, I want to expect similar numbers from Garrett Wilson his rookie year, if not higher.
Okay. So you think if we're going to bring him in, he's got to go ahead and either be as good as our guy Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, I because it's Garrett Wilson came in with this Zach Wilson essentially both years of his career, and he's had 1,000 yard seasons both years, and that just shows he could play with any quarterback. Reminds me of Terry McLaurin a little. Terry McLaurin will produce numbers with any quarterback. Same with Garrett Wilson. So I want that versatility, really, so to speak, in any wide receiver that the New York Jets have.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. I think that Garrett Wilson has proven himself to be, as some would say, quarterback proof, right? We've only seen a handful of individuals do that over the last couple of years, McLaurin being one of them, but another guy that's done it has been Mike Evans, right? It doesn't matter who's back there. The guy's going to get his. He's going to get you 1,000 yards. Garrett Wilson in back-to-back years now, when everything around him has just kind of crumbled, has still produced, has still performed. I think, man, if the New York Jets are able to bring in and a Dunze or a MHJ or a freaking Neighbors, and everybody can stay healthy. Now, again, a lot of what ifs, right? We're playing armchair GM freaking paper mode, where on paper everything is is pristine. I think really the floor for this team is the AFC Championship game, man. I think this is going to be a toe-to-toe with, the Kansas City Chiefs, or a toe-to-toe with the freaking Baltimore Ravens. Maybe it's the Houston Texans. And with that said, how would you look at the Jets roster in comparison to some of those top-tier rosters in the NFL? The Texans, the Browns, the Chiefs, of course, and of course the Ravens.
I think they're right up there with those teams that you just named. You rattled off the Texans, the Browns, those teams. And in terms of how this team has been built, I couldn't have asked any more from Joe Douglas this offseason. Would I have preferred Mike Evans, or like a T. Higgins over Mike Williams? Yes, but still, he locked up Mike Williams, who's very solid when healthy. He got Tyron Smith. In my opinion, the number one must-get name on that free agent market. He got Tyrod Taylor. And, the way this team has been built, and like you mentioned about the playoffs, I think it's more than making the playoffs. I think you have to win one, maybe even two playoff games for this team to be back. I think some of it, if they lose in the first round and they get absolutely slaughtered and it looks like the Dolphins game, they're the 30-0 game, I think everyone's gone. But
Right.
if they really fight and they just get outplayed, I think this regime will be back. But I think it's more than making the playoffs. I think it's one, maybe two even wins in the playoffs.
Okay. Okay. So I got a question for you on this, because I have my feelings on it. So let's say the season is an abomination, right? Everybody's healthy, but we don't make the playoffs. Do you see Woody wiping out the entire thing, Joe D, coach, everything gone? Or do you think that there's going to be certain individuals that are safe, vice not?
I think if one's gone, everyone's gone. I think Douglas. I look at Douglas and Sullivan. I think they're tied together. I think they're either both back or they're both gone. I don't think one's back and one's gone. I think they're tied together.
You see, I gotta disagree, man. I've been having this debate back and forth with a couple of guys in regards to if the team doesn't produce or they don't achieve the goal, right? And with a healthy roster, somehow we don't make the playoffs and the streak continues. I don't think anybody can sit here and look at Joe D, to include Woody, and be like, man, you didn't do your job. Because I know a lot of people will say, well, he's had so many misses, but those misses were had when the man was trying to build the team the right way, right? Like, yeah, I would have gone Justin Fields over freaking Zach Wilson, but did it matter? At the end of the day, they're both scrubs, right? They're both bad at football, so it doesn't really matter. Both of them wind up getting traded for a 6th rounder to other teams within their first contract. He's made attempts to fix the O-line. Injuries became kind of ridiculous, right? The first draft class was the COVID draft class. I kind of like, with Becton and whatnot. You didn't really get a chance to see those guys. So, but then he's been able to show you improvement year in and year out, and built a roster that I think is a top 5 roster in the NFL. I look at this team, and I think it's the most complete roster in the NFL. I don't think many teams, pound for pound,
Agreed.
can match up with this roster. I just don't. And Joe D built that. He did that. So if Coach Saleh can't win with this roster, right, that would lead one to believe, man, you can't win with a top 5 roster in the league. You're not built to be a head coach. I have this gut feeling that Joe D would get another shot. Joe D was good enough to go ahead and bring us Aaron Rodgers. Joe D was good enough to get us Tyron Smith on an incentive-laden deal. We were able to get freaking guys like Mike Williams into the building. You've got guys like David Bakatari just waiting around to go ahead and sign with the New York Jets. I'm hoping anyway. He brought us the offensive rookie of the year, the defensive rookie of the year, and Brees freaking Hall, JJ. Like that draft itself might save his career. So for me, man, I think there's a chance that that Joe D is safe, and it's actually just Coach Saleh that gets chopped. Call me crazy. People have told me that's kind of crazy to say, but I really believe that that's a possibility.
You know, you proved your point really nice there. That's tough to argue, but I think the good to bad, other than the 2022 draft and this offseason, really, and the exception of signing Aaron Rodgers, what has Joe Douglas done? And I feel like it really goes to nothing if you don't win anything. I mean, the Jets are notorious for being the champs of the offseason, but you can make those moves all you want. If they don't pan out, it's all on the GM, though. If you really think about it, like you can go out and sign these star players, and let's say they all get injured, and the Jets go 7-10 again, or even worse. I think all of them need to be gone. But I do realistically see the Jets going 10-7 this season, or 11-6, something like that. I think they definitely make the playoffs, and I can see them winning 1 or 2 games. I think they have a really solid shot at winning the AFC East.
So you say 10 freaking games. So what are the 7 you think we're going to lose, if you don't mind my asking? If you just who are the
So
teams?
the 49ers, I probably will split with the Dolphins. And, obviously,
Your mic just went mute. Your mic went mute. Connor.
you got me?
No, I got you.
Yeah. So I said there's a lot of games where the Jets are just like expected to win where they don't win. For example, like the Patriots games last year, like those type of games. But I do see them splitting with the Dolphins probably. They'll beat the Patriots. The Texans will be a tight matchup. I'm just checking who else they have. They have the Jaguars. I think will be close. I think they'll lose to the Niners. I think they'll honestly, I look at this team and I did my predictions last year. I had them going 13-4, just really ranking it on paper. And then obviously they went 7-10. So if I broke it down game by game, honestly, they'd probably be going like 12-5 or something like that. But you always have to make up for those games that you don't expect them to lose, and they just go out and lose.
Yeah, I mean, I got them. I got them if they're healthy, man. Again, health being the key component. I got this team winning 13 games, winning the AFC East, right? And I'm with you. I think we split with the Dolphins. I'm actually not scared of the Bills. I'm out of respect. I'm gonna say, you know what? They are the back-to-back AFC East champions. We'll split with them. But I just look at it this way. The last 2 years we split with them, right, with Zach Wilson at the helm. They don't scare me, man. They've taken a lot of L's this offseason. It wouldn't surprise me if we wind up sweeping the Bills. I think the Patriots should be a sweep. They're in complete rebuild mode. Even if they were to go ahead and add some key components and pieces, I just don't see them being able to match up again. Pound for pound, this roster is stacked. Defensively, special teams, offensively, especially if you talk about bringing in one of those top tier weapons. So I guess at 13 games, man. But I see what you're saying in terms of like what if the Denver Broncos come into our house and beat us with Zach Wilson at the helm? My God, I first of all, I would throw up if that happened. But it would be a Jet thing to happen to us, right? That they would come into our house. Zach Wilson would ball out one of those 2 games he has every single year that he actually plays well. He'd have one against us and wind up freaking beating. That would be dire. But I think this team, man, is definitely they should be favored, in my opinion, for the AFC East crown. But I think it's because we're the Jets that it's not the case. But yeah, I got us at 13 wins, man. Like AFC East champs, 13 wins, and I think we make it to the AFC Championship game because again, this defense, this running game. That alone can win you games when you have Aaron Rodgers and the offense clicking. I think that's going to help out a lot. But
I think I agree with what you're saying. I think a lot of it depends on health. But Gunny, what if Zach Wilson comes to MetLife and he's reluctant to play?
That's a good point. Maybe he doesn't want to go out in front of the bright lights, against the Jets fans. This is very possible. I don't know what Sean Payton's going to do if that's the case, but we've seen him go ahead and do it before. So, honestly, I think I'd want to play Zach Wilson. How do you feel about that? If Zach Wilson wins the starting job and he comes to freaking MetLife, do you want us to play him or would you rather us not?
Personally, I'd rather it's not. I think it's a lose-lose situation for Jet fans because you think about it. Let's say he goes out, he throws 3 interceptions, gets like demolished. Everyone will be like, "Okay, he's a bust. We expected that to happen." Versus like he goes out, throws for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns. It's you can't win as the New York Jets when it comes to playing Zach Wilson.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, I think entertainment value, right? Zach Wilson's revenge game. He comes back to MetLife. Like that itself has some value to it. But if you're a Jets fan, honestly, it's Zach Wilson. We've beaten up on him enough, right, in terms of a fan base. But if he comes into this house and beats up on us, that would also hurt. Like you're right. It's that kind of lose-lose situation. But it wouldn't surprise me if somehow, some way, he's a starting quarterback and it's deemed his revenge game. I could see that being the story. Bernard Nixon has a question for us here. Gunny, do you think Rodgers has been injury prone in his career? I'm going to answer that honestly. No, I don't. I don't believe injury prone is the term. Aaron Rodgers has only missed 2 full seasons in his entire career. Last year being one of them. And I forget which one it was, but there was a year, I think it was in the early 2000s, 2007, 8, something like that. He missed a whole season as well. This is a guy that gets banged up quite a bit, but he plays through it. He's always played tough. So yeah, a lot of people look at this Aaron Rodgers injury and they're like, oh, he's wasted, he's done, he's washed. You know what I'm saying? He's injury prone now. It's an Achilles. It's an Achilles tear, man. They're one of the most unpredictable injuries one can get, right? Like his whole leg could have went past his freaking neck for all we know, and it would have been fine. But in that situation, in that right moment, that right amount of torque, it snapped, right? And you've seen Aaron Rodgers take bigger hits. You've seen Rodgers have more people on top of him before, and that's never happened. But in that particular situation, just the right amount of torque at the right amount of time, it wound up snapping. I don't believe I don't have any concerns about Aaron Rodgers not finishing this season. I think for me, when I talk about like getting through the season, I'm referring to the fact that he is 40 years old. I mean, this is a young man's game. If we're being honest, football is a young man's game, and he's 40 years old. I don't know if I want to test, his 40-year-old body getting hit a lot. So I would like our wide receiver room or our offensive line room to keep that man upright and protected, which is one reason why I'm so big on offensive line, even though now I've geared towards a weapon. I'd be fine with either or. But no, I don't believe he's injury prone per se. He's only missed 2 full seasons in his entire career. I forget what the original injury was for the first one, but I know this last one, a freak, Achilles tear. What do you think, Connor?
I couldn't agree with you more. I think it was a complete fluke injury. No one expected that to come out 4 plays into the year. But yeah, I don't think he's injury prone.
Cool. I know it hasn't been asked yet, Connor, and I know I've already kept you past the hour mark, man. I appreciate you holding it down and hanging with me. But listen, a lot of my people, man, we talk about you all the time, man. You're doing amazing things on your channel, bro. I gotta ask, man, like amongst your interviews with these A-list freaking guests you've been able to bring onto your show, who amongst those individuals would you say has been some of the better experiences that you've had?
Top tier, I'd probably go, Rich Samini, who's actually making an appearance back on my show tomorrow. It'll be his 3rd time on my show. Really, really good guy. Obviously, one of the main Jets beat guys. Really fun to talk to. He really speaks his mind on how he feels. And then Marty Lyons and Wesley Walker are definitely up there just because how cool of a guy Wesley Walker is, along with Marty Lyons. And, Marty Lyons is actually commentator for the Jets on 98.7. He does the ESPN New York radio for the team, so he definitely kept up. We actually got to talk a lot of current Jets along with Sack Exchange in his career. So those are probably my top 3 if I had to pick the top 3.
Okay. Nice. So I guess what it boils down to, man, is how is Connor new to the game? How do you have this network already built up, man, new to the game as you are? You've been able to achieve some A-listers that I know I've attempted to get a hold of, others have tried to get a hold of, and yet somehow, some way, Connor is making things happen, man. Like, what's the secret sauce, Connor?
Honestly, I couldn't have done it I wouldn't be where I am right now without the help of all the content creators. You, Boy Green, Matt, Jake, Ryan, all these guys. I wouldn't be where I am right now without the help. But honestly, it's just persistency. If you really like someone and you really want to interview them, you got to do everything you can to get on that show, whether it's reaching out to agents, doing anything you can to find some email, maybe get a hold of their agency, something like that. That's the key is persistency.
Okay. Gotta stay persistent. So I gotta step my game up because again, man, I watch your show, man, and every time I've jumped on there and I've watched another individual, I'm like, how in the world? And I'm gonna give you a shout out right now. I have a guest coming on to the show next month. I'm not gonna say a name yet because I haven't gotten the final dates solidified, but that is a shout out to Connor. Once the individual solidifies the yes, Connor was able to hook me up with the phone number and everything. So I appreciate you, Connor. I will give you your dues when I get the date locked in. But listen, sometimes it's about who you know, right? Like, and I've made attempts before and never got through. But sometimes it's who you know. I know Connor now. That's my connect. So I want to thank you for the hookup you got me for one of my guests coming up next month. Connor, it's past an hour, man. I know you got to get going, brother. I appreciate you. Tell the people where they can go ahead and find you.
NY Flight Jets Talk on YouTube, at NY Flight Jets on Twitter. Daily discussions on Twitter about content anywhere from 3 to 6 days a week on my regular YouTube channel. But Gunny, appreciate you having me. Everyone, thank you guys for watching.
Hey, have a good night, Connor. I'll talk to you next
Thank
time,
you.
brother.
See ya.
Later. That's Connor, everybody. Yeah, man. If you're not watching Connor's freaking channel, you're missing out. I'm talking about this kid has done some impressive interviews. I mean, he's young in this game, but I think he's one of the, you call them prodigies. He's an up and comer. He's serious about his football, and his football IQ is nice, man. I'm like, okay, if I wish I knew as much football as he does when I was his age. Heck, I can't even say when I was in my early 20s, I knew as much football as this kid does. So if you haven't seen Connor's show, man, or seen his channel, I promise you, it's quality content. Jump on there, man. He's done some. He's had Schefter on his freaking channel, man. Jake Asman, Rich Samini. He's going to have him back tomorrow. He's had Wes Worker. Like, listen, trust me on this one. Get on the kid's channel. You're not going to regret it. Yeah, Dark Soldier, exactly. So Aaron missed like 8 games this entire career before last year. Dano, so your question was, you can't guarantee a healthy O-line or Rodgers. Drafting a weapon, you only can with a padded O-line. And I agree with you. I'm not going to pretend like I don't want offensive line. I'm not going to pretend like if the Jets went offensive line that I'd look at them in disgust and be upset about it. I'm just saying in terms of when you really break it down, if either the offensive line or Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy for the season, with this current roster as it is, you're going to win 12, 13 games. One or the other. Now, and I say that because I believe Tyrod Taylor is a very competent backup quarterback. And if he has to come in for an Aaron Rodgers and the offensive line winds up staying healthy, then Tyrod Taylor can stay back there and tear up some defenses. We can rely more so on the run game. Our defense is going to carry us through games. I think, listen, I don't think we're going to get MVP Rodgers. I know I've said this before, but I think I want to kind of clarify this, man. If Aaron Rodgers comes here and what we get out of Aaron Rodgers is what he was in his last full season in Green Bay when he was throwing with a freaking torn tendon in his thumb and, people said he was on the decline. Listen, that Rodgers would have been one of the highest stat line performances for any Jets quarterback we've had in quite some time. Like that's how bad we've been, obviously, at the quarterback position. But that top 10 performance he had would have allowed the Jets to make the playoffs 2 years ago. That's how good of a roster we have. So I'm not going to be mad either or, Dano. If you want to jump on real quick, I saw you make another comment. Doesn't sound like any of you watched Dom Blue or Bray. Hey, Dano, if you got a moment, check your Twitter real quick, man. Because, I would like to discuss it. I've got about 15 minutes left on the show. So check your Twitter if you're still on here, Dano. If you want to jump on real quick, jump on. Because I'm kind of curious as to what you mean. But in terms of our offensive line, I think right now the New York Jets have a pretty solid offensive line, right? We've got our 5 starters. I do believe Bakatari is pretty much just sitting in the wings waiting to go ahead and become a New York Jet to officially sign. And again, I'm not saying I'm against offensive line. I'm just saying I've now opened up my eyes more so to like, man, if we go the weapon route, what that can open up for our offense. I think it's been said clearly that the New York Jets, man, we've had one of the worst offenses in football for years. So if the Jets were able to potentially put some weapons in front of Aaron Rodgers and give him the best arsenal he's ever had in his career, yeah, at 40 years old, he might not be freaking prime Aaron Rodgers, but I'll take freaking Aaron Rodgers on the backside of his career, getting the ball out of his hands quickly, reading defenses, and letting the playmakers make things happen. I'm okay with that. Bernard asked, can Rodgers outplay Mahomes? Zach Wilson did. Zach Wilson outplayed Mahomes last year. We all saw that. The Chiefs shouldn't have beaten us in that game last year. No ifs, ands, or buts. If Zach Wilson can go ahead and outplay freaking Patrick Mahomes when he's playing our team, I think Aaron Rodgers can too. Ultimately, I think we need to remember it's not going to be Aaron Rodgers facing Patrick Mahomes. It's going to be Aaron Rodgers facing the Chiefs defense and Patrick Mahomes facing the Jets defense. And last year, our defense played so well, they made Zach Wilson outperform freaking Patrick Mahomes. That's thinking. So to answer your question, Bernard, yes, I do believe that Aaron Rodgers can outplay Mahomes in a game. Now, I'm not going to bet against Patrick Mahomes. The dude has been he's been doing elite things since, coming into the league. I also am a big believer in Andy Reid as a coach. So I think that's going to be a concern. I think a lot of it is not just going to be, the Jets versus, the Jets roster versus the Chiefs roster. A lot of it is also going to come into play in terms of the coaching. I think they got us beat by coaching hands down. I don't believe it's even close. And that's where you're going to have to see Aaron Rodgers and our defense have to overcome for some of our coaching deficiencies, because Andy Reid to me is a Hall of Fame coach. To me, he's the GOAT. He's the greatest of all time. People say it's freaking Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick, if you told me he was the greatest defensive coordinator of all time, got you. But Andy Reid is literally a head coach on the defensive, offensive side of the ball. He touches every aspect of the game plan. He's done it with multiple teams, two teams, the Eagles, and then, of course, the Chiefs. He's won before freaking he's won with Donovan McNabb and Mike Vick, and now you've seen him do it with Patrick Mahomes. You've seen him be consistent throughout his career, and he just was able to take it over the top because he got himself a guy like a Patrick Mahomes. So I think when it comes to that matchup, my biggest fear is going to be the chess game being played between Coach Saleh and Coach Reid. And I'm sorry, I think in that situation, I put my money on Coach Reid before I put it on Saleh, and I hope I'm wrong. I don't want Brian Thomas Jr. too much Stephon Hill vibes. Look, okay, so the only thing they have in common is the speed and the height. Stephon Hill didn't have the surest hands coming out of college. Brian Thomas has like an 8% drop rate. It's not great, but it's significantly lower than what freaking Stephon Hill had. I think Brian Thomas can run better routes. Stephon Hill was more of a stiff wide receiver, man. Like, again, known purely for his go route ability, right? That straight speed. Nah, man, Brian Thomas is fluid. Like, he is fluid. Like, he is a violent cutter, right? The only thing about his route running that I think is lacking is that he doesn't know how to disguise his routes, right? So he's very violent when it comes to his cuts. He's very violent when it comes to his stop, but he's also a very fluid athlete. His stop and go ability is elite. He can go ahead and get to speed rather quickly. You can do a lot with that at the next level. I think with an NFL wide receiver room, with NFL wide receivers coach working with this kid, you're going to go ahead and see him from being the go guy, right? They can run a couple of routes for you to a guy that can go ahead and do it all on the outside, maybe even put him on the inside, because the guy is fluid enough of an athlete to go ahead and adjust and learn at the next level. So his traits to me are easily transferable to the next level because of how fluid he is when it comes to his movements. Stephon Hill was stiff, bro. Like he was fast, but he was a stiff athlete. He wasn't very fluid. So that's why I look at the two, and I've heard this comparison before, Wild Wave, and this is why I had to go back and kind of take a look at it. Yeah, similar height, similar speed, and that's really where the comparisons end. When you actually watch them side by side, you'll realize, like, okay, well, Brian Thomas, yeah, he's got a full range of motion, so to speak, when it comes to him playing wide receiver, whereas Stephen Hill, not so much. Zach outplayed Mahomes. Exactly. That's why I was saying Dark Soldier. Like, he outplayed him last year, so to me, Aaron Rodgers being able to do it is easy day. DKB offensive line all the way. Hopefully after sliding, I've been big on Mims around 18 if we slide with the Bengals. Yeah, again, so for me, so we're going to be doing the live stream of the draft. Now I'm going to actually have probably Mike, the stat guy, or somebody else start it, because I just found out that my daughter has a play on Thursday at 6:30 my time. We're kicking off this live stream, the watch party, at 7. So I'm going to make it work. I'll be back in time for the picks to begin. It's school's down the street. I'll figure it out. I'll get back in time. But to start it out on time at 7 o'clock, I might have to have Mike on there, but we're going to have a couple of individuals with us. We're going to have Mike, the stat guy. We're going to have Nick from Proud New York Jets fan. We're going to have Jiggaman Portal, Italy Jet, Gino. We're going to have Abby. She's going to be here as well. Dom C's making an appearance. DK is going to be here. We're going to have a fun time on Thursday watching this draft, watching the New York Jets select the next piece of the puzzle that's going to allow us to get to the next level. And again, if you're not subscribed on the YouTube channel, I suggest you go to the YouTube channel right now, read the description, follow every single person's YouTube that's in the description, because you're going to have an opportunity to win a Elijah Vera Tucker autographed jersey. So we'll be doing a giveaway as well by the end of the evening. It's going to be a fun time, man. So on Thursday night for the NFL draft, if you ain't got nowhere else to go to watch it with us. It's going to be a good time and have a chance to win an autographed jersey at the end of it. But kind of lost my thought here. So DK, hopefully. So yeah, when it comes to sliding back, Dano, I'm not opposed to that. Listen, when I say I want weapon now, I'm saying I've come around to the idea of getting a weapon and how it could be a benefit. I'm not saying that's the move, the only move the Jets can make. I'm not like one of the Bowers boys that they can't pick anybody else but Brock Bowers no matter what. Like, no, I understand that the Jets can go a myriad of different ways. And as long as this offense, I'm cool with that. As long as the Jets go offense, we are not going to have a problem with me. I'll be happy about it, and I will root. If it's Bowers, I'm not going to lie to you, I'm going to be upset. But I'll understand the logic, at least, that they were trying to go ahead and add another piece alongside Aaron Rodgers, and then I'll get over it because I'm a Jets fan, and that's what I do. But for me, man, I just want to see this team pursue offense. If they can do that, then we're talking about Aaron Rodgers' life being easier. I don't see how anybody can look at it and go wrong. Let me see here. Are there any other questions that I've missed? Yeah, I'll be trying to go ahead and keep this show to about an hour to hour and a half max, like, because then I just feel like I'm just kind of holding you guys hostage, and y'all could be doing other things with your life. The Late Show, competing, blah, 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 blah. Dano, listen, so Dano actually just started his own channel. So the Late Show featuring Dano Jets. Listen, I think we have one of the greatest freaking fan bases on the planet. I don't think there's many like us, man. Jets fans are just built different. The way we support one another, support the content creators, man. You guys make this fun. Like, I look forward to these opportunities to kind of sit back, express Jets joy or misery with fellow fans, because misery loves company, but joy loves company as well, right? So right now things are going great for the Jets, and now we're about to have Dano, you know what I'm saying, with his own channel. So if you didn't know, you can go ahead and put it in the little YouTube search bar. It's going to be the Late Show featuring Dano Jets, just like his name is written out. Or in the comments, if you can see him, you can click on it, go straight to his channel. Go sub, man. Go sub. Support Dano. He's just getting started. But Dano is a guy that knows his stuff. He always has some top tier freaking like opinions and information. To see him get onto the platform and start sharing it with everybody else, I think it's well overdue. So Dano, shout out to you, man. Bowers is the outlier because not much competition over the draft, and the guy 5 picks early. We'll see. Yeah. So okay. So they're talking. Y'all just talking to each other. Okay. Cool. Pronounces a dunze. Like, wait, what? Pronounces, it's a dunze. Like Nick Shine pronounces Salah. Wait, is it not a dunze? Or is it a dunze? See, now Dark Soldiers got me thinking twice about how it's pronounced. It's a dunze. Man. All right, I see. Now I'm gonna go listen to see how people pronounce it, because now I'm wondering if I'm saying it the wrong way. I could see us having 4 Breeze. Okay, well, that's it for me, guys. It looks like I've answered all your questions. JD has a little more security. I like this part, Wild Wave. Yeah, I agree. I think JD's also going to be secure if freaking Coach Solid can't figure it out and can't win with these guys. I don't see a situation where Woody would look at the best roster he's seen possibly since he became the owner of this team. Well, no. Best overall roster, yes. In my lifetime, I don't think I've ever seen a roster this well-rounded for the New York Jets. Offense, defense, special teams. This is by far the best roster I think the Jets have ever had in my lifetime as a Jets fan. So 20 plus years. We won 7 games. That's another fact too. We won 7 games with the worst QB play in the league. Having Aaron Rodgers gives us more than 3 wins. I agree, man. I think what Connor meant was in terms of the unforeseen, right? I think he's taken into consideration we're probably going to lose a game we shouldn't lose. It's going to happen, right? Every team does. The Bills shouldn't have lost to Zach Wilson in the beginning of the season last year when the whole energy, the vibe in the stadium it died with freaking the snapping of Rodgers' Achilles, and yet somehow we still won that game. So I think he's trying to take into account that's where he sees us taking some L's. So, in all actuality, man, as Jets fans, it's better for us to go ahead and prep ourselves for the worst, but expect the best. I think 10 wins is low. I really believe the Jets are going to win 13 to 14 games this year. And that's if either the O-line or Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, which either or. I think this team is that good to win that many games. If Aaron's out there, that's what matters. We beat House last year. Okay, AFC Championship versus Cincy. So you think it's going to be the AFC Championship game versus Cincy, man? I don't know, dog. I'm starting to feel like I'm probably going to take some static for this. Now I'm just going off for no reason. But I'm thinking Joe Burrow's overrated. I'm really starting to get into that camp of Joe Burrow is overrated. This is a guy that, you know what I'm saying, that I think has depended a lot on Yak. If you ever look at Joe Burrow, a lot of a lot of what he's been able to achieve has been dependent upon Yak, T. Higgins, and of course Jamar Chase doing big boy things. The guy can't stay healthy. Like, when are we going to start giving him the moniker of being injury prone? Like, he's had one healthy season thus far at the NFL level. This is year 4 for him, I think. So I don't know, man. I think it's going to boil down to the Jets and the Chiefs, or the Jets and the Ravens. In fact, I would even say the Jets and the Browns. I'm sorry, the Jets and the Texans before I say Cincy. Texans, to me, yeah, man. If if CJ Stroud is the meta, like he takes another step, I really see an AFC Championship game of Jets versus Texans, Chiefs versus Texans. Like, Texans, to me, I think are really well built all around. They've got the weapons on offense. They've got the weapons on defense, and they've got the quarterback in CJ Stroud, and you got to love the coaching job you saw last year. So I'm really worried about the Texans potentially being a team that snuffs our hopes and dreams this year. Cincy, I'm not worried about. That offensive line is still in freaking disrepair. I think we're going to take advantage of that. Zach against his mentor A-Rod, that would be fun to watch. We have an elite defense in the same token as Zach will come in our house and work. That's facts, DK. If Zach Wilson came into our house and did us dirty, yeah, the whole elite moniker for our defense dies with it. They would have to hold that L. They were good defense, great defense. We couldn't put elite in the same conversation as them again if Zach did us like that. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't miss anything before I log off for the day. Johnny, what's up, brother? Nice to see you joining us. Left another stream. When I saw you were on, I know here I get some takes, not the same. So, hey, I appreciate that, Ricky. Hopefully I didn't disappoint. You've been hanging with me for a little while, so hopefully I was able to at least pique the interest of different takes. What's good, Mike? How you doing? We can boom, boom, boom. I don't see any questions, guys. Hold on. Gunny, Bacon, CMG will both sign post-draft. We need weapons, more the better. Yeah. I'm telling you guys, because if you think about it, right, Dallas needs offensive line help. Tennessee needs offensive line help. You mean to tell me you're not going to take a chance on a 3-time Pro Bowler that just finally by all indications, the issue or the repair of the ACL tear that wasn't done right 2 years ago has been fixed. You're not going to bring him in and kick the tires a little bit. Like, that's when I'm sitting here like, that doesn't make any sense. Because Bakatari is still the guy just 2 years removed from being back-to-back Pro Bowler, left tackle, playing at a high level. So I believe wholeheartedly that there's already something that's been discussed or done or written up that has him coming into the building as a Jet. And I think the Jets really want to go weapon in this draft. I really do. Gunny, I have to say, I think the New York with the Jets on the top logo is a stupid fresh hat. Nah, it is. It is. I have no arguments there, man. I actually just ordered my new one as well for the new logo, the new hat that came out. It should have been here today, actually. Now I'm kind of curious as to where it's at. My jersey hasn't arrived yet either, and everything was supposed to be here today. So I was hoping to have it by freaking, the draft party. So hopefully they don't let me down. Jets collection is actually insane. Hey Dewey, what's up, man? Hey, years of gathering, and not to mention, shout out to Italy Jet Gino. So when I started doing like giveaways and stuff, he became my connect for that. Being out here in Houston, Texas, I'm not going to get access to this kind of stuff regularly, but a lot of this I've acquired over the years. But Gino really came through with a couple of major pieces back there, especially this one right here. This one is a Italy Jet Gino's exclusive and special. This sign over here, like I've got a couple of pieces here specifically from Gino. So yeah, I appreciate that, Dewey. I plan on adding to it because it's just I'm addicted. I'm gonna pass this on to my daughter one day when it's all said and done. Gunny, now you can't leave. Yeah, man, I've been trying to jump off, it seems like, but now I'm going through trying to go ahead and answer questions. Thank you, Hawk. I appreciate the love, man. I think it's Jack Gunny, Bank and CMG, trade up to number 5 for Harris. Listen, so I don't know if you guys were, because we hit this early on in the stream. I'm all in. Listen, I know it's a rumor right now going on that the Jets are looking to trade up. I don't believe the Jets do it. But if Jody wanted the world to know that he's serious about this team winning now and supporting Aaron Rodgers over the next couple of years, you move up and you get yourself MHJ or Neighbors, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts. If you get freaking Marvin Harrison or freaking Neighbors in the building, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. The New York Jets right now are literally swinging for the fences. You're going for it all. And I won't lie to you, those guys are going to be good for at least 2 games. If you bring one of those guys into the fold, add 2 more games to your total wins on the season, because I believe either or will make major plays to win at least 2 games this season for you. That's how good these guys are. Now, for me, if it's MHJ, I think you bring him in because him and freaking Garrett Wilson already have some history. I think the learning curve for them being able to work off of each other and go ahead and compliment each other is significantly shortened. And you kind of want that for your quarterback, where you don't got to worry about wide receivers getting on the same page. Mike Williams being the veteran that he is, I think he can pick up on it quite quickly. But I'm telling you, man, if Joe D does this on draft night, New York Jets fans, y'all need to go ahead and start talking silly stuff like Super Bowl, because I think adding one of these 2 guys to this roster with an Aaron Rodgers, and again, health, I know I keep saying it, right, but health being everything, I think there's no ifs, ands, or buts, man. There's not going to be any defensive cornerback room that can hang with all 3 of our wide receivers. Our running back, Breece Hall, is going to eat. He's going to be filthy. You got a guy like freaking Conklin who's going to go ahead and show y'all why he has gotten, back-to-back years, top 10 stats for a tight end position with trash quarterback play. I think that's the move. That's the move that's going to go ahead and put everybody in the NFL on notice. The moment that happens, you're going to go ahead and jump on BetUS, and then you're going to see the odds pretty much shift towards the Jets to win the AFC East. Because I think right now we're like 3rd. It goes Bills, Dolphins, then Jets. But I bet you that move puts Jets at the top. No ifs, ands, or buts. What's my favorite Jets memorabilia that I have? Honestly, man, it's my Revis jersey, my autographed Revis jersey. So I got to meet Darrelle Revis, man, God, years ago, bro. It was 2000, maybe 10, 11. Had that jersey on. He signed it, and then I sent the jersey in to get certified. This little, move my finger. that right there, the little certification sticker. So I had to go ahead and send it in to get certified. But to me, that's my favorite one because like he signed it on my body, right? And Revis is one of my favorite freaking New York Jets growing up. So meant a lot to me. Now I got the Namath. Of course, the Namath is great because he's the guy that brought us our own Super Bowl, but I didn't get to watch the man play. This was before my time, but I respect the legend that is Joe Namath. But Darrelle Revis by far is my favorite piece of memorabilia. Like I might actually. So this is that's a legitimate like flight helmet. So when I was in the Marine Corps, I almost got this signed by Nick Mangold when I went to a game and I brought it, but I wasn't supposed to technically have it because I was still in the Marine Corps at the time. And well, I digress. I wasn't supposed to have this because it should have been dermoed, but I was able to go ahead and get it as a gift from a pilot. But I digress. That's a story for another day. So like, I might rock this thing during the draft because it's actually pretty badass. I like it a lot. And that's another piece that I really like because it kind of ties in the whole Jets aspect, but also my time as a aviation mechanic in the Marine Corps. So this and this are my two favorite pieces back there. Okay. All right. Okay, what's this? Gunny, we are taking this division, whomever draft. Yeah, no, 100%, big fella. I really think currently as the Jets are, that we have the best roster in the division. We have a quarterback that I think can compete with the Josh Allens, and I think Tua is Tua. Yeah, I think he's limited. I really do. I think he's limited. He's never had to play the New York Jets with a legitimate, competent quarterback. I think I don't want to be a homer, man. I don't want to be a homer, but if I'm being honest, man, I don't see many teams, again, pound for pound, that I look at and I'm like, man, this is concerning. And that's including Josh Allen and friends. That includes Tyreek Hill and friends. I don't look at those guys in our division and think like, man, that's gonna hurt. Both of their rosters have taken significant hits. They've all taken steps backwards. Man, I agree, man. So if I had to put money on it today, before the season even starts, before even this draft, 100% I'm putting money on the Jets. After the draft, I'm probably going to still put money on the Jets. I can't see the Dolphins or the Bills doing enough to really change that for me. The only thing that I look at when it comes to this season, if I'm being honest with you, is it's health. I think health is really the only concern. I think our defense is going to be a nightmare. Think about this. The Jets defense, built the way it is, has not had the opportunity in any capacity to actually do what they're built to do, which is get after the quarterback. When you're playing from behind, right, you got to take into consideration a lot of things in terms of, running plays, freaking screen passes, and teams, dinking and dunking, trying to go ahead and just take away the clock. But if you're playing with the lead, if the Jets defense gets to play with the lead, guys, we have not seen these guys at full capacity yet. We have not seen these guys literally be able to go ahead and think one thing and one thing only: go kill the quarterback. And I mean, hypothetically, go kill the quarterback, not like literally go kill the quarterback. Like, this defense is built to get after the quarterback, but they got to play disciplined whenever they're playing without a lead, and a team can do anything they want to go ahead and kill clock or. So to me, having Aaron Rodgers in the building to be able to get us leads is a huge impact for the defense, who, one, will be rested because we're not going to see 3 and outs freaking every 2 seconds, right? So they'll be rested. And 2, they're going to have leads, multiple, throughout the season, to where that means our defensive line can just pin their ears back and go hunt. Listen, this season, I'm stupid excited for this season. I'm trying to go ahead and be as composed as possible, but I can feel myself getting pulled back in again. And setting myself up for hopefully not the same kind of disappointment we had last year, which, again, I don't think is going to happen. Again, the torn Achilles thing, man, was, oh my God, so devastating. I'm going to keep it 100 as I do. I'm really, really concerned about Rodgers' age, him being away from the game as long as he has, getting up to today's game speed, a new gelling O-line. It's scary. Now, Hawk, that's facts. That's facts. It is scary. And again, I'll say this now, man. Even if Tyrod Taylor is the one that's back there stinging the ball, the expectation is different. If Tyrod Taylor winds up taking over for any reason whatsoever, we're not talking Super Bowl. We're not talking going toe-to-toe with freaking Patrick Mahomes. We're talking we might win a playoff game or two with Tyrod Taylor. Aaron Rodgers is the catalyst that makes us feel bold enough to speak the words Super Bowl or AFC Championship, going toe-to-toe with Lamar or Patrick or CJ Stroud. Tyrod Taylor doesn't give me that warm and fuzzy. And I agree. What version of Aaron Rodgers we get is going to be telling. Is it going to take him a couple of games to get into the groove of things? Is it going to take him deep into the season? The thing I say about that is this, right? Having Aaron Rodgers on the field, just in general, is going to help, right? Because you're still going to be too afraid if you're a defensive coordinator to stack the box the way Brees Hall has been facing the last couple of years. So Aaron Rodgers just being present is going to impact that, right? So yes, it is concerning, Hawk, and I am concerned about it. And I'm hoping that, he gets his mind right, what I'm saying, by like October, November timeframe. But I'm preparing myself for it to be a run-oriented team, defensive-oriented team, at least for the first couple of months while he gets reacclimated to the game. But the fact of the matter is that Aaron Rodgers being Aaron Rodgers is going to force defenses, to be honest, because you can't stack the box, all right? Because the fear is there that that's Aaron Rodgers back there. He can make me pay if I stack the box, right? So we've got to go ahead and cover every blade of grass. And that's going to allow things like Brees Hall to go ahead and just dominate. I can see a lot of freaking yak yardage being gained by Aaron Rodgers, just getting rid of the ball quickly into the hands of Garrett Wilson, Conklin, freaking whoever we freaking draft, Mike Williams. So I think that you're right. There is reason to be concerned, but keeping in mind that just him being on the field is going to change the way teams play us. And let's be honest, the Jets won 7 games last year with the worst quarterback play in all of sports. Like, sports. There's probably junior colleges that had better quarterback play than what we experienced freaking last year. So, again, we don't need – I think we can go ahead and deal with Aaron Rodgers coming along slowly while he gets his feet underneath him. All right. Make sure you got your daughter green and white flowers for good luck. I appreciate that, Dewey. I will. It's kind of awesome because she's been part of the set building team for the longest time, and this is her first time deciding that she wanted to actually act in one of their plays, and I got to be there for it. I felt back, I completely forgot. I had this already set up, and then we were talking about it earlier today, but I'm going to do both. I'm going to go see that, and I'm going to come back. I'll be a little bit later on, but yeah, I'm going to make sure I grab some of those flowers for her too. Right. Work on that, which sucks. We'll be keeping track best I can. That sucks, Ricky. Hey, man, if you have your phone on you, man, just plug your AirPods in or your earphones in a little bit and just listen to the podcast. You'll be able to go ahead and listen the excitement or the frustration of whatever the Jets do. When I say frustration, the only way I think that happens is if the freaking New York Jets decide to go defense vice offense. I'm going to lose my mind. I was talking to Tyson about this earlier on Twitter. If the Jets decide to go defense, I don't care who it is. And there are some really talented defensive players in this draft class. Like there's some dogs in this draft class. I don't care. If the New York Jets go defense, we riot. That's it. We riot. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'm going to lose my mind if that's the route that we take. So I think that's the only way really you can really set this fan base off and unite us in anger to go ahead and pretty much riot because there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's offense or nothing. It's offense or just trade out of it, get more picks for a different freaking time frame. Because if it goes defense, I think we have to riot. Appreciate you, Knopcraft. Looking forward to having you there. Pretty sure I already do. All right, guys. So I have gone way longer than I told myself I would. Hour and 37 minutes. Just praying we can keep them upright. Yeah, Hawk, you keep bringing me back in. Nah, man, that's the fear, right? I think Aaron Rodgers is the meta. He has to go ahead and stay upright. He has to be protected. He has to be able to play quarterback. If he can't, man, I don't know if we're going to have the ability to achieve the goals we've set forth, which is Super Bowl. Tyrod Taylor is good, but are we talking Super Bowl with Tyrod? I don't think so. Can we count on Tyrod Taylor being upright for a full season? I don't know. Again, a lot of the successes tied to our season this year is literally intertwined with health. It's depressing, Really, it's depressing because we see what the potential can be for this roster in terms of the talent, but then the fear factor of that MetLife turf just ripping it away from us again is just too much. What's up, Tigo? How you doing, bro? All right. Oh, here we go. So, okay. So, Odunze. So I've been saying Odunze. That ain't it. So, Odunze. I see you all came through trying to make sure I say it right. Hey, I appreciate the love. Hey, the learning is occurring. I'm all about it. I appreciate being corrected. So it's Odunze. Okay, Odunze. I can say that. I'll fix it. I'll fix it. All right, guys. I think that like Doomsday. Yeah, I guess in a way it is kind of like that. Boom. All right, guys. That's it for me. Come on, Mike. This is such a good stat line. This is why I think there's no way the Jets can't win more than freaking the 10 games, right? Because we lost 4 games last year by 5 points or less with Wilson and Nathaniel Hackett. Like 12 wins. Oh my God. I couldn't agree with you more. I think that 12 to 13 wins is going to be the norm. And if I keep scrolling, you guys are going to keep me here. Man, what's up, Curly Norman? If you don't bet on the Jets' future to win it all right now after Flight 24, y'all crazy. So that's right. The new Flight 24 has come out. Man, you know what? I should. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go watch it, and then I will talk about it probably on Thursday night because we're going to have plenty of things to talk about in between draft picks. So, all right, y'all. Dano, that's going to send me off because I want to go watch it now. And I've been seeing people talk about it in the chat, so I'm assuming it must be really, really good. Okay. All right. So that's it. Tigo said something, but I know me and Tigo, we always like to debate. Bro, that offense will be real good, but that defense is in shambles, in my opinion. Need a lot. Wasn't the Houston Texans the top 10 defense last year? With a lot of young pieces on it. I don't know about needing a lot, bro. But I'm sure we could debate this, you and I, but I'm gonna call it. Everybody, I appreciate you guys for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me for the last hour and 40 minutes. Yeah. On Thursday night, tune in, man. We're gonna have a good time doing the freaking watch party. I'm looking forward to it, man. The draft is officially 2 days away. Again, if you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. Jump on my YouTube. It's already there. Look for the draft party for Thursday night. Subscribe to the individuals in the description, and you automatically qualify to win the autographed Elijah Vera Tucker jersey. You know what? Just so I can say it now, in order to win the Elijah Vera Tucker jersey, these are the rules. You have to be subscribed, of course, to the YouTube channel and to the YouTube channels of the individuals in the description. And then you're going to comment what the AFC East GMs are going to do in this draft. So what are the Bills going to do? The Jets going to do? The Dolphins going to do? The Patriots are going to do? Once you go ahead and do that, you're going to then put in the tiebreakers. Tiebreakers are as follows. First tiebreaker is if you got the Jets correctly, right? Let's say you got 3 out of 4 right, and one of those 3 was the New York Jets correctly, and somebody else had 3 out of 4 right, but they didn't get the Jets right. Congratulations. The tiebreaker goes to you on that scenario because we're a Jets channel. We want the Jets content. That's what we care about. So you get to move on to the next tiebreaker. Next tiebreaker being, will a tight end be drafted in the top 10? Answer yes or no. If you answer that correctly, how many wide receivers will be drafted in the first round? You put that in the comments as well. Then let's say there's a tie for all those things, right? Whoever wind up putting it first is going to be the winner. We want to go ahead and announce the winner at the end of the stream on Thursday night. Again, it's an autographed Elijah Vera Tucker jersey. It'll be sent to you along with the certificate of authenticity. I'll be taking care of shipping and whatnot. You'll DM me your address, and I'll get that out in the mail for you right away. So if you don't got anything to do on Thursday night when it comes to watching this draft, watch it with us. You have a chance to win a prize at the end of it all. With that said, appreciate you guys for hanging out with me at the Hangar tonight. Y'all have a good night. Till next time.